It is my distinct pleasure to introduce you to our next guest. We have Bruce McKay with us. Bruce is the Managing Director, Policy Director of Dominion Energy, and Dominion Energy is one of the nation's largest and most diverse energy companies. You know, every morning when I wake up, I am so grateful when I turn on the lights because Dominion has made that possible. And I truly mean that. You know, we run a family farm, which is really a small business, just like so many small businesses throughout our beautiful Commonwealth and in our nation. And, you know, the ability to be able to turn on the light switch and provide energy to fuel our businesses, to, you know, get our households going, to get our kids ready for school, to really live the American dream is so important. So with that said, it's an incredible pleasure to introduce you to Bruce McKay. Good morning, Bruce.
Good morning, Martha. Great to be with you.
Thank
you for the kind words you just said about our company. Appreciate that.
It's truly heartfelt. You know, so often I think we forget how important it is when we have the ability to have energy and electricity to fuel our day and make it possible for us to go to school, to go to work, to really make our dreams come true. And I'll tell you when I think we're most aware of it, and that's when our power is out and we don't have access to it. And then we are so aware of how important it is to us all.
I tell friends that working for a company where the product you provide is something that everybody needs every moment of the day, and in those occasions when a bad windstorm comes through and blows a tree on a power line and you lose your power, life comes to a standstill. There's really nothing else you think of until you get your power back on. So it's great to sell a product that is that needed, but when it's not there, it's very missed. You're right.
Absolutely. Well, you know, I was hoping you could fill all of our viewers in about the status of the ACP project.
Would be happy to, and for those who don't, stands for
the Atlantic Coast Pipeline, which is a proposed project, and now it's moving from proposed to permitted in early stages of construction, that would bring natural gas from West Virginia, Pennsylvania, and Ohio down across into Virginia and North Carolina, with the gas being delivered in those states, mostly in Virginia and North Carolina. Proposed cost is $6.5 billion, 600 miles. It's a very large pipeline, and I say those stats only to point out that it's one of the most significant of its sort proposed in the country today. It is that big, because there is a great need for more natural gas in Virginia and eastern North Carolina, where the pipeline would go. There's a shortage of gas pipeline there. So several years ago, our company partnered up with some others to develop this proposal, and it's almost 4 years since we announced it, and we've been doing all the permitting and the environmental analysis and negotiations for easements, making pipe, ordering materials. We now are at the point where we have just about all of our permits needed to begin construction. We do have permits already to begin early tree felling work in many areas along the line. So before long, we'll be able to go out and actually start digging trenches and bringing out the pipe and putting it together and getting it in the ground.
Well, I know that this pipeline will create thousands and thousands of jobs. And there are so many skilled workers out there that are really eager to get working on this pipeline. And so, you know, we're thrilled to be able to, you know, see that this is finally coming to fruition. And I thought I had read that Dominion had entered into a training opportunity with some labor unions to help with the pipeline. Can you speak to that?
Exactly, and we can talk kind of about the big picture, long-term benefits of the project in a moment. But you're right. The most immediate benefit in terms of economic opportunity and jobs, those are the thousands of people that will be put to work putting the pipeline together and putting it in the ground. The Laborers International Union, or LIUNA, that's who you're referring to. They are tasked, along with some other construction trades, those who go out and build things, to provide the workers for this project, and many, many thousands will be needed for the 2-year construction period up and down the route. They don't have enough members today to build it. So the beauty of this is that they are signing agreements they already did with the Virginia Community College system for one, and they're doing similar agreements in North Carolina, where the community colleges would work with the union to identify, source, and train people to be prepared to work on the project. Some of the workers, very highly skilled, this is what they do and have for many years. But a lot of the work, you can be trained up in not a long time, go into an apprenticeship program, and be working on the project, making anywhere from $19, $20, maybe that's just $25 an hour for the laborer-type activity, full benefits, family insurance. And then after that, after the pipeline is constructed, you are qualified to have a career in that field. The unions talk about it as a pathway to the middle class for people, but really who may not, in some cases, have any skills in this area, but they want to work hard. They're willing to be trained up and make the kind of money I'm talking about here. So it's a great opportunity for thousands of people coming very soon.
It really is exciting to hear you say that. In terms of the big picture, long-term goals of the project, can you speak to that? Because I know that a lot of people ask, well, why can't we just use solar panels and windmills? Why do we have to have a pipeline? And I always say, well, the sun doesn't shine all the time and the wind doesn't blow all the time, but there's really a lot more to it than that, right, Bruce?
Absolutely, and it's hard for people to hear about an underground natural gas pipeline going in and thinking, what does that mean to me? I don't care about that. I may not even have natural gas in my home. And if you don't, I hope one day you do, because anyone who's ever lived in a home with natural gas, heating and cooking, they want to go back to that. And when they next move, that's one of the boxes they always check is you want to have natural gas. But even if you don't have natural gas, the gas that will be flowing through this line, about 80% of it will be used to generate electricity. And in Virginia, for example, there will be millions of people across the state who will enjoy the benefits of this natural gas in the form of an electron to keep their power on. Now, you asked about solar and wind. Our company, we're announcing additional solar projects all the time, both in Virginia and around the country. We have solar projects up and running and under development in Tennessee, California, Georgia, Connecticut, and other places. It's an important, growing important power source. But, as you just said, the sun doesn't always shine, the wind doesn't always blow. Natural gas power stations, they are a perfect partner with renewables that ramp up and down as the weather provides the fuel source. So we shouldn't put all of our eggs in any one basket. We would be the last ones to say that we should depend on nothing but nuclear power or coal or natural gas or renewables. We want to have a balanced portfolio so that in the long run we have some of each. Natural gas is a real good one, and it's very clean burning. Half the CO2, for example, as a coal-fired power plant that we also have some running, but fewer today than we did in the past.
It's clean, abundant, safe, and affordable, and that's when I hear about when folks say, well, gee, Martha, I really want to, why can't I power everything with, just the sunshine? And, is natural gas safe? And I think that's an important conversation to have, because isn't it the safest available that we have now in terms of an energy source?
Exactly. The U.S. Department of Transportation, which is the regulator for safety of interstate pipelines, they will tell you that it's the safest way of transporting fuel. And you may not think about that much because there are hundreds of thousands of miles of pipelines underneath the ground around the country. People drive over them every day. Right. They don't know it. They don't think about it. They don't think about it any more than you and I think about the arteries, that are carrying the blood through our bodies every day. It's very similar. Days go by, I don't stop and think about that. I don't stop and think about the fuel moving around under the ground. The accidents are very rare, and the industry is getting better at that all the time. The inspections are great, the construction methods, the training. and all the programs to make the industry as safe as it is.
Absolutely. And, some of the other questions I receive often are about, people want to know, will the gas line be exported overseas? Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. We hear that a lot, and people say that this project is not needed, and that the true plan is to export the gas overseas, and that's not the case. This one is very driven by need for gas, natural gas, in eastern Virginia and eastern North Carolina and western Virginia. But I mentioned eastern only because today, if down in the Hampton Roads area, a company came along and wanted to set up a new industrial plant, and they needed a 24/7 supply of natural gas, you couldn't get it. You could only sign up and get it on an interruptible basis. That means on the coldest days when the demand's great, you have to be willing to say, yes, I'll give up my fuel supply. Well, a lot of manufacturers can't do that. They need firm access. So that's why it's so important to get more down into that area. And then eastern North Carolina, the nearest interstate pipeline in eastern North Carolina is out in the western part of the state. So all of their gas comes all the way across. There, too, manufacturers today, if they want to locate in eastern North Carolina and sign up for a new source of gas, additional lines or additional work has to be done to bring gas from a far distance away. That's why this one is over 90% subscribed today for 20 years for domestic use. Plus, there are no LNG, liquefied natural gas export terminals down in that area. So this project is very much being built to serve domestic markets and utility customers, both gas and electric, as I talked about earlier.
I think it will also invite more new businesses and new industries to come, because now we have more energy available to power them up and fuel them, right? More jobs.
I can tell you that every single economic development director in every county where the project runs, especially down in the central eastern Virginia and eastern North Carolina, has a story of trying to recruit businesses, and they get to the checklist, and one of them is, do you have natural gas when, where we would need it, and at a competitive price? And virtually all of them tell a story of having lost an opportunity because of that. That will no longer be the case once this project comes in. That box will be checked. So then when companies are looking for land, skilled workers, transportation, a good business climate, they can check the natural gas box, which is very important for many companies.
The opponents always like to say, Bruce, that these jobs are only temporary, that are going to be created as a result of the pipeline. That's their favorite drum they seem to like to beat. Oh, sure, there's going to be generated thousands of jobs, but that's only temporary. Once the pipeline's in, that's it. No more jobs.
Nothing gets them, the construction workers, more upset than hearing that. They equate that to saying that a surgeon does a bunch of temporary jobs because there is no one surgery that lasts for 20 years. These construction workers build a career out of working on temporary jobs, if you want to call it that. Unless the work is being done in my house, all construction work comes to an end at some point. And that's just the nature of it. Every time the economy needs stimulation, the Congress and others say, okay, maybe a big infrastructure bill, shovel-ready jobs. It's the best and fastest way to get people working and get dollars flowing into the economy. Everybody should embrace people going out, working, building that will make our economy more efficient and get energy to where it's needed. So the temporary job thing really doesn't stand up under scrutiny.
No, not at all. And these the workers that work on the pipeline, these are some of the greatest folks I've had the pleasure of meeting. Oftentimes they bring their families with them to the job sites, and they're just great Americans that love their jobs. And I think it's wonderful that they're so often able to be with their families on site.
You bet, and I can tell you that the thousands that will be working on this project, they will on weekends jump in and help with local projects to renovate a local park, do work at a school. They really tend to jump in and try to make community improvements along the way, volunteer time when they're in a community for 6 months or a year during the work period. And then, as I mentioned, a lot of these workers are not going to be coming from other places. A lot are going to be locally who have been trained and, living locally permanently, but working on this project during its construction period.
Well, that's wonderful. Bruce, I did a little teaser before you came on earlier in the show, and I talked about how we have Russian gas going into Boston, and I've had quite a few people contact me to want to learn more about this, and I was hoping you could speak to, this winter's unprecedented imports of Russian liquefied natural gas.
Yeah, sometimes you can talk about policy matters and big pictures and theoretic models and all that, and then one thing will happen that sort of captures people's imagination, and they say, okay, now I get it. What you've been saying may be true. And that's really about the New England natural gas market. No has been the answer to a number of new and proposed expanded natural gas pipelines to feed the economy up in that area, the result being tight supplies. So there is an import terminal that's been up in the Boston Harbor for a long time, and it has been bringing in liquefied natural gas for a long time because there's just not enough supply up there. And what you do is, for liquefied natural gas, you take it over, you source it somewhere else, you chill it, it becomes a liquid, it shrinks in size, put it on an insulated ship, bring it over, unload it, warm it up, and you have natural gas again. So this winter, earlier this year, when a tanker of gas that originated in Russia landed in the Boston Harbor, because they were so short of supply up there, a lot of people paused and thought, boy, why is this happening? The U.S., in many respects, is the envy of the world because of these technologies that have made natural gas so abundant and affordable here. Why are we sending our dollars, to the Russians for an energy supply? Even the Boston Globe editorialized, and the Boston Globe, this is a little bit out of character, I would say, editorialized that policymakers ought to pause and take a look and say, is this the long-term path we want to go down? Maybe the answer to everything new should not be no. Maybe there should be some balance sought. So that has really captured people's attention in a way that was very much needed.
Well, I'll tell you, it really caught my attention because, so often, opponents will say, "Oh, we really don't need that pipeline." That we don't need that pipeline. They talk about that there's such a need, that they're satisfying a need, but there's no real need there. I mean, we hear that so often, and yet, here we have a situation, just a glaring example of, guess what? We really need this pipeline. We need it now. We needed it yesterday, and we all can't wait to have the pipeline come through to fuel our homes and provide electricity for our jobs and really to keep the American dream alive. And so thank you for everything you do, and we hope to have you on the show again very soon, Bruce. Thank you so much for your time this morning.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to update you and your listeners on this project. And next time we talk, I'll talk about how many people are already being trained and working on it. It'd be a great story.
That would be great. How can folks, if they want to learn more or support the pipeline efforts, where can they go to kind of track the progress of the project and maybe see how they can get involved?
Well, a couple ways. We have a website, of course. If you Google Atlantic Coast Pipeline, the first thing that will pop up will be the website for the project itself. There's also a third-party stakeholder group called Energy Sure, and the Sure part is standing up for reliable energy. It consists of members such as businesses, labor unions, economic development authorities, small business, several hundred members across the 3 states of this project. You can go to EnergySure.com and you'll find materials there about the project, and there's also a place there you can put in your information, and if you'd like to trigger a letter to policymakers, elected officials saying, I support this project, please do the same and see to it that it gets completed. you can do it through that avenue as well. And both of those sites have an abundant information about the project. And if anyone has concerns or wants to know more, you will find it there. It's an extensive source of information. It
really is. I mean, the maps are interactive. I mean, you can really find out everything you need to know right there. Well, thank you so much, Bruce. We hope to have you back very soon.
Thanks. Have a great rest of the program and your day.
Thank you.